Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Today I've got a fragrance review for you of a fragrance that I've done a first impression in the past on, and it is this one, Dsquared Wood. In this video I'm going to check out the presentation with you guys like always, break this one down, let you know what I think about it, let you know if it's something that I think you should check out or not, and we'll also talk a little bit about how Dsquared has killed off all of their fragrances that are not this, and also the feminine version of this. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Like I mentioned, guys, Dsquared has killed everything that is not named wood. So that means these old he wood fragrances, this one is Rocky Mountain wood, they're gone. Kaput, goodbye. Their potion fragrances, also gone, discontinued. Their random stragglers like Wild, Dsquared Wild, those are gone too. So I don't know if Dsquared maybe didn't like the direction these fragrances were going. Maybe they weren't selling all that well, this line and the potion line. But for whatever reason, Dsquared looked at all the fragrances they had made over the years and said, you know, screw all of them. Let's just hit the reset button. And that, my friends, is exactly what they did. They actually announced they were discontinuing everything. I made a video about it, one of my This Week in Fragrance videos, and let everybody know, hey, these are being discontinued. I figured they would still be at discounters for years, honestly. And yet, within a couple months, pretty much all of these gone from discounters. Now, I'm not saying they're gone permanently. There could be bottles that pop up over time, but these went from being heavily available all across the internet to being gone almost like that. At least as far as fragrances are concerned, a lot of times you'll hear a fragrance is discontinued, and then 3-4 years later you can still find it just as easily as you could 4 years ago. That is not the case here though. And that's a little bit surprising to me. The Dsquared fragrances never really took off the same way that some other brands do. Some fragrance houses, they'll announce something new and people are like, oh my God, wow, that's awesome, I can't wait. It seemed like when Dsquared would announce something, people would just kind of go, okay. They did have some fragrances that were very, very well loved, especially in the potion line, the Dsquared potion line of fragrances. But yeah, they killed all of them. They don't care about them whatsoever. And now we have this, the first one in the new Dsquared wood line. There is green wood for men and red wood for women coming out very soon. Those have already been announced, but this is the only one out as of now, at least as far as men's fragrances are concerned. Obviously, Dsquared still playing off of wood as being their main gimmick, their main theme. That's what they had with all of these fragrances. Their old bottles, as you can see, were lined in wood with the glass in the middle. It's definitely an interesting look, but they were honestly a pain in the butt to hold and use. It's not comfortable, it doesn't fit well in your hand. But this new bottle style, I very much prefer to the old one. Maybe doesn't have quite as much personality as the old one, but it looks good, it's heavy, it feels good in your hand, it's easy to spray, it has a good atomizer. I'll show you the presentation here really quickly so you can have a closer look at what I'm talking about. First up, we'll take a look at the box, which has a nice velvety feel to it. So here you've got the front of the box, Dsquared wood, size and concentration down here at the bottom, and it does have that Canadian maple leaf on the front of the box as well as the top. You've got nothing on the sides or the back. And then on the bottom of the box, you've got your ingredients and your batch code. And here is a close-up look of the bottle. Like I said, it feels really good in your hand. It's a heavy glass. It is very nice quality. The cap here, as you can see, has a little wooden inset, and then it's metal on the top and bottom of the cap. On the top here, you've got the maple leaf, and on top of the atomizer as well. Then on the bottom is where you'll find your sticker with your batch code. In case you did not notice, the cap is magnetic. It's really nice. The presentation here is top notch. And I'll go ahead and waste a spray of this one for you guys. I'll spray it onto my hand here. So as you can see there, atomizer, easy to control, a lot of fragrance comes out, it's high quality. My voice almost cracked there, which is always very professional. So now on to talking about Dsquared Wood, the fragrance, finally. I've got to tell you guys, the first time I smelled this fragrance was when I was in Montreal, which actually is very fitting since Dsquared is a Canadian brand and they feature the maple leaf all over the place. I was up in Canada first time I smelled this, and I was with Manny from Cascade Scents. We were walking through Hudson's Bay and I grabbed a bottle of wood and gave it a spray because I was interested to see how this one smelled. I have to tell you guys, it was really quickly, it was in passing when I smelled it, so it was one of those things where I didn't sit down and give it time to develop or anything like that. It was just a quick kind of snap reaction, but I sprayed it and I smelled it, handed it to Manny, and I said, this has got to be one of the most boring things I've ever smelled in my life. I remember just being completely underwhelmed by the fragrance. I thought it was very forgettable and yeah, just a bad release. Oh, and if you see that, that's from my kitten. Yeah, so anyway, I didn't like it very much. I thought it was poor, very poor. I've had it for a while now. I've given a lot of wear, and now I'm gonna let you guys know if my opinion has changed at all from that first snap reaction and then the first impression I did where I actually gave it a little time to develop. It opens up with a citrus combo. Lemon comes across the most strongly to me. It has a little bit of a cleaner kind of vibe, like household cleaner. It dies away quickly, so it's not something where it's got this household cleaner vibe that lasts and lasts and lasts. But initially, for that first 30 seconds or so, it does have a little bit of a lemon-ish cleaner vibe. Like I said, doesn't last long, maybe 30 seconds, and then it starts to veer off and turn into kind of a lemony fresh violet. That's the main thing I pick up. There are some woody notes underneath the lemony violet, but, and this will be kind of a recurring thing, the woody notes in the top are not super prominent. They're not the most prominent note. And the wood here, to me, does not smell like any particular type of real wood. So in some fragrances, you'll have wood that smells like cedar, and you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely cedar, I can get that. Or gaiac wood, or sandalwood, or even a note like cypress. Something like that, you can smell it in a lot of fragrances and go, oh, cedar, gaiac wood, sandalwood, whatever. The woody notes here just smell like nondescript wood. Just like an idea of woodiness without it actually being wood. That probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but hopefully it does. It's almost like when you buy furniture that looks like wood, but it's actually just like a laminate over top of something else. That's how the woods come across here. You can tell it's trying to smell like woods without it actually smelling like a real wood. There's also some soapiness in the opening to Dsquared Wood, which helps give this added freshness. So that soapiness mixes in with the citrus, with the violet, with that little touch of woodiness, and it gives this one a fresh, clean feeling off the top. Into the mid, it retains that soapy feeling with a little tinge of powder as well. The citrus sweetness from the opening is still there in the mid, but it no longer comes across like a real citrus. At that point, it's just like a sweet nuance that kind of sits underneath the other notes in the mid. The violet leaf is still really prominent to me. It's very noticeable in the mid. That little woody nuance is there as well. Again, the wood's not super strong. They're pretty light in the mid to me. There might be a little bit of zingy ginger in here, but there's not a whole lot of that either. And as well, to me, it smells like there's a little bit of ambroxan in the mid. It kind of shores up the woods a little bit. It adds a little bit of depth. The ambroxan's not in your face. It's not really strong. It's just a bit of a nuance, like I said, kind of plugging in the holes, if you will, with the woody note that you smell in the base as the fragrance dries down. Into the dry down, it doesn't change a huge amount. The sweetness drops off. That's probably the biggest change from the opening to the mid to the dry down, is the sweetness going away. In the dry down, you've got a little bit of vetiver. It's not really strong, which, like I said, is kind of the theme of the woods here. There are woody notes, there are woody nuances, but there's not really wood. You know, the name of the fragrance is Dsquared Wood, so you expect wood. I mean, you expect a lot of it, right? That's the name of the fragrance. That's the color of the bottle. That's what they put on the cap here, but it's just very light. the whole way through. So into the base, you have a light vetiver and the little synthetic woodiness from the opening mid and into the dry down as well. And you can also pick up a little bit of that fresh, semi-soapy violet leaf in the dry down as well. But that's really about all you've got going on once you hit that dry down. Light woods, light vetiver, that little fresh semi-soapiness, that's about it. It's not at all offensive. This fragrance is very easy to wear. It's versatile. It's the type of scent you could easily wear to the office. You could wear it casually. Not what I would want to wear on a date, but it does have versatility to it. If you wanted to, you could probably wear it formally, but I think that it does come across a little bit bland. Like I mentioned before, first time I sprayed this on, I thought it was one of the most boring things I'd ever smelled. I don't know if I'd go that far on it now. I think it's pleasant. I think it could serve a lot of different uses, but do I still think of it as boring on the whole? Yeah, I do. I think it's pretty boring. It is the type of fragrance you could very easily just spray and go. So if you're going out the door, you could grab this, spray it, and chances are it's gonna work for just about any situation that you're gonna be in, like I mentioned before, outside of maybe a date. So that's really the strong suit of this one, just being kind of a dumb reach kind of fragrance that you can just grab and go. But I don't think that it's anything attention grabbing. I've had a number of people check this one out, and the consensus is that it's okay. It's one of those kind of fragrances where people say, yeah, it smells nice, but it's nothing that blows people away. So to me, this one actually falls into the exact same pitfalls that a lot of these fragrances fell into. A lot of the Dsquared he wood fragrances were not at all hated, but they weren't necessarily loved either. They were just fragrances that smelled okay. And there's not anything inherently wrong with smelling okay, but when you have literally thousands of fragrances to choose from, some of them that are gonna have you smell freaking amazing in certain situations, why would you want to smell okay? And I think that's where a lot of these didn't do so hot, and now they've been canned, and yet they've been replaced with something that does the exact same thing. It's not that it's terrible, it's just forgettable. It's like elevator music or something like that. It's in the background and you hear it and it's there, and you know, it's okay. It fills in the white noise, it fills in the silence. It's that kind of thing. It's not anything where you're gonna hear the elevator music and be like, oh man, what is that? Damn, man, and pull out your phone and try to Shazam it. Like, I gotta get that. What is that tune? That's kind of what this is. You smell it and you're like, it's okay, it's okay. But it's not something where you're gonna walk by somebody and be like, oh my God, what is that? Is that light synthetic woods with a touch of soapiness? Wow. I'm not trying to be mean to Dsquared. I think that the presentation is wonderful. I almost dropped it. It's just, it's passable. It's passable. It's one of those things where if it's a 1 to 10, you give it like a 6 or something. Now let's talk about performance here really quickly and wrap this up. Longevity is good for me, 7+ hours, nothing to complain about there. Actually, gets further than 7+, it's just that's on the low end. And projection wise, it's actually a little bit soft. It's good initially through the initial opening. After that, it becomes a fairly soft fragrance. It sits pretty close to my skin. So it's one that lingers for a long time, but doesn't really project out while doing so. Touched on this before, but season-wise, I would wear this spring through fall. Not one that I really want to reach for in winter, just because, again, it sits a bit close to the skin, and it has more of a fresh feeling to it. It doesn't have that oomph or that richness that I usually like in colder weather. And the main benefit for this fragrance to me is going to be just the versatility. The fact that it is a very easy fragrance to wear that's going to offend literally nobody. Is it gonna blow people away? No. But is it gonna offend them? No. So it's a safe wear. Well guys, that's gonna do it for me with Dsquared Wood. Like I said, Green Wood is going to be coming out very soon. It's already been announced. Hopefully that one's gonna be a step up above what this one is. Maybe it's gonna be one of those situations where the flanker does what the original should have. That's what I'm hoping for. When that one does come out, I'll definitely pick it up and give it a go. I do love wood fragrances with a heavy wood note. This one just doesn't quite do that for me. If you've smelled Dsquared wood, let me know what you think about it below in the comments, and also maybe let me know what you think about them killing off all of their other fragrances to make room for that one. As always, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Thanks so much for your support, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.